This chapter deals with the hot topic of marketing, or so it seems, and that is social media, mobile marketing, digital communications, and so on. Let's cover a few things. Here are the objectives, and this is always a good place to start. And the reason is, as a decision maker, you're always looking for pros and cons. What are the strengths or weaknesses, the trade-offs? If I do this, I can't do that. What are the weaknesses of this strategy or this tool or this media? That's just always where you want to start. It's no different than making a decision about whether to buy one product or the other. It's a list. It's an analytical approach. How do you carry out effective social media campaigns, word of mouth, and mobile marketing? So here's where we're at. The world has matured in the sense that digital marketing has been around long enough that pretty much everybody, regardless of age group, other than at the very extreme ends, is dabbling in this or using this to some degree or another. It's unavoidable, really. So we've got websites, we've got kind of the typical things you put in, shoes in your browser or your search engine in Google now. Now it's become just Google, more or less, and away you go. Google is not the only choice, however, but it's a potent one. So there's mechanical things to consider when designing a website so that it's picked up by the search engines, and there's a whole series of things to learn about search engine optimization, SEO, and that's a big deal. It's essentially mechanically making the code or the background of a website interact with the search engine so as to pull it up when you look for shoes and things like that. Here's a good list of advantages, disadvantages. Always smart to pay attention to this, because if you have a product that doesn't fit in here well, or is hard to describe, wouldn't be searched for necessarily, this might not be your best choice. This might be one for another type of media, maybe a more traditional one, maybe even a billboard, who knows, flyers. There's lots of ways to do this. Media habits is probably the biggest thing to pay attention to in regard to a target marketer. Where do people go? This is a good list of choices for sure, and time per day on average. And they don't really give us the age, the income, the demographic, and the descriptors of who this represents. Okay, so as you read the chapter, you want to pay attention to that. So here are your options, more or less, for online marketing. They all have strengths and weaknesses. It just depends. What's the right answer? The right answer is it depends on who your target market is and what their media habits are and what they might respond to and the characteristics of your product. Is it easy to describe? Is it hard to describe? So this becomes an investigation into making decisions as a marketing manager. So there we go. Building a website, there are so many people out there that do this, and it's way too expensive in my opinion, but if you want it to really look good, you have to pay for someone that really knows what they're doing. There are some, if you're a small business, you can kind of get away with the canned ones or the sort of self-developed, but you're still probably, if you're going to really depend upon this for revenue and as a money-making adventure, over the long term, you probably need some professional help laying out a website. It's been around a long time. They call these the 7 C's. We're now at 6 of website design. This is something really to pay attention to because it helps clarify before you go into that web designer. You'll want to have gone through all of these and understand, because you're going to get a lot better performance out of that web designer if you can tell them exactly what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, and who this is targeted to. That web designer may not be smart enough or have the training to really understand that. This is where they need absolute direction from the decision makers, i.e. you, who's calling the shots ultimately. A pretty website is just a pretty website. An effective website is one that sells. We're after sales. This is a means to an end, remember. And in a sense, it's no different than laying out a physical store. How it's merchandised, how it looks, the atmospherics, the ease of getting around and finding what you're looking for. Those are things that matter physically in physical stores, and they matter in websites as well. Emails are still powerful. It doesn't exist till it's written down in a certain sense. People still sign up for them. Again, who are you targeting? What are their habits? If they don't use social media, it's great to have a media presence, but you got to be where they are instead of wishing they were where you wanted them to be. Social media has become, such a mammoth creature, at least in social media's mind. I mean, it's supposed to cure cancer, make you taller, grow your hair back, have you lose weight if you want to. All those things. It's going to cure all those things for a business. Well, the answer is it's not. It is still pretty narrow cast as far as a selling tool. It's important. I'm not trying to minimize that, but it's not everything. So you got to understand, again, who's your market. Just because you happen to like for example, you like Mercedes-Benz, you go to their Facebook page, or you engage in their social media, you get Twitter feeds from, look at their blogs, whatever, doesn't mean you're ever going to buy from them. Okay? Ultimately, this has to circle back to transactions. And so don't ever forget that. So it's a nice, you can get all sorts of analytics and data out of this. And really, that's probably the biggest thing with social media, is getting consumer behavior data. It's a gold mine for that, at least in tendencies and things. It may not signal, however, what people are going to buy. You might get 1 million likes on your Facebook page, but they might just be, I like because it's pretty, like Mercedes-Benz, but I'm never going to buy it. So this is very true. Only some consumers want to engage with some brands, and even then, only some of the time. So this is a piece of the puzzle. It is not the whole puzzle in market communications. Really, social media is a form of word of mouth, and that has some benefits, and it has some drawbacks for a marketer. Things, there can be wars online. Twitter can blow up. You're a bad person, you're a bad whatever. There are certain strategies which, quite frankly, I'm not versed enough in to comment on. But there's a lot of supposed experts out there. You exercise care. Where it's going to matter the most, if you've got negative social media out there, is if your target market is one that engages in social media, then you'll want to pay attention to that more. But bottom line, if you're doing what you say, you're delivering the product that you say you're going to deliver, takes care of a lot of these problems over the long term. Now this guy right here is from Blendtec, Will It Blend. I suggest you look this up and watch a few of these things. And ask yourself, how do you sell a blender? How do you sell more blends? How do you sell an expensive blender, for goodness sakes? They've been around a long time. How do you create that buzz out there and not spend an unbelievable amount of money on promotions? They did a really good job of getting a lot of notice online for their products, and they're funny. So certain things to consider, who influences. This is no different than the consumer adoption process that we've talked about and you've read about, where you've got those innovators. You want to get to those innovators first. They're the ones that are going to pass the light, or light the fuse down the road for other people and influence them. So that it's a targeting process. There you go. It's PR. Bottom line is public relations. You're trying to influence through non-paid advertising, even though it's going to cost you at least time and effort. Mobile marketing, everybody's got their nose in their phone, sadly. Communication skills are dropping, face-to-face communication skills. Um, have the discipline to set it down, especially when you're around your family, my humble suggestion. Um, people check statuses. I think, I have to wonder sometimes if not, it's more for entertainment purposes than it is for commerce. But, you can certainly maybe move the needle a little bit in your favor, at least for you to be recognized and create brand awareness. That's probably mobile marketing's biggest attribute or biggest strength. Apps have certainly become powerful, or at least ubiquitous. They're everywhere. Writing, kind of post-literate generation, they're not going to read a paragraph. You better say it in a few words, or you're doomed. People aren't going to consume, or they don't have the discipline of the patience to consume a lot of information, and they can't. They can't mobily. Again, cross markets, what are their behavior? What are they like? Someone in Finland, which is an interesting case study for social media, they tend to be shy culturally, people. They don't talk to each other face to face, but they will engage in a lot of social media chatter and things like that. So something to understand. Understand your market. That's the bottom line across markets. Okay, keep reading, studying. Take care. Thank you.